Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 858B, and today's date is January 4th, 2016, and the title of the episode is U.S. Government Creates Chaos with Iran and Other Middle Eastern Countries to Bring About War. Now, before I get started with the report, I just have an announcement. Tomorrow, Tuesday, I'll be uploading an interview with Peter Schiff to start out the new year. If you are on the X22 Report email alert system, you will get an email. If you subscribe to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, YouTube should send you an email. If not, just come right over to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel and you'll see the video there. Or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there. Or you can check it out on newssentinel.com. That's NEWZSENTINEL.com. This is a news site where I'm streaming in alternative media around the world. I'm also streaming in videos from all different locations, so you can see all the information in one place. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. We have seen throughout 2015 and 2014 a lot of mass shootings. And most of them, I would say 99.999%, can never say 100, they were false flags. A lot of them were hoaxes. And they were all put together to push an agenda, and that is gun control. I mean, it's completely obvious. And if you don't see it, you need to look a lot closer at this. Because their objective is to get the weapons away from the everyday citizen. Not from the criminals, because they're worried about the everyday person. The everyday person realizing that this government is not working for them. That this government is working for corporations, central banks, other foreign entities. That they're corrupt. That they're trying to impose tyranny on the people. This is what they're most worried about. And Gallup did a poll. And their poll was asking the American people, and this is not a corporate poll or a news poll where the government controls everything. This is a Gallup poll where it's done by the people. And Gallup goes out to the people to find out what they're really thinking. And they ask questions about, what's the nation's most important problems? And Obama, of course, is out there saying it's guns, it's mass shootings, it's what's happening out in Syria with Russia. It's everything but the government. But the people have come back and they said only 2% are worried about gun control. You know what the number one thing is that they're worried about? Government. Government's too big. Government has too much control. Government is out of control. The next thing is the economy. Under that is unemployment. Under that is immigration. So Obama is not doing this for the people. Just like immigration, he waited to push his memorandum. A lot of people call it an executive order, but it's really a memorandum. He waited for after the elections because he knew the people weren't going to be happy with this. This is not what the people wanted. This is what the corporations wanted. This is what the central bankers wanted. The gun control is what the central bankers want. It's what the government wants. It's not what the people want. Remember, the people have the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. And these rights cannot be infringed upon. And the government, with their 23,000 laws infringing on the Second Amendment, shows us their main objective is to get the weapons away from the people. But nothing can override the Second Amendment. And this is where they're having a problem. And this is why our founding fathers said, yes, every person is born with these rights. And the central bankers, the U.S. government, they all have a problem with this. We see out in Oregon, the family there is being held because they're basically being charged with setting fires. Now, they set fires in the fields to get rid of these pesky varmints on their land. It's a known practice. but they're using this 1996 domestic terrorism law to say that they were trying to commit arson. And really, when you look closely at this, this looks like another land grab, like at the Bundy Ranch, because it looks like the federal government is trying to gobble up all the land around the area. And they have many different agendas associated with this. And we can see that one of the agendas is really to push some type of incident in this area. Now, we know the FBI, they are en route to this area where you see all over the corporate media, they're going to try to take the situation and bring it down a notch. Well, that's not what the FBI does. The FBI actually does what the FBI does, and that is they increase the tensions in the area. They create false flags to push their agendas. They infiltrate groups with agent provocateurs to get something going. And this is what we need to be looking at right now. Because if they have the ability to do this, they could basically spark a civil war in the United States. And this could be a bloodbath in Oregon, and this could spread. And this is something they want. Because the U.S. government central bankers, they want an armed conflict. They want to declare martial law. They want this to occur because they have control over this. They have the ability to bring in forces to the area. This is what they've been pushing for. And we're going to have to watch this situation very, very carefully and watch for these agent provocateurs, watch what the FBI does, and make sure that if we do spot something, it is spread all over the internet to show that this was the government who started and put agent provocateurs in to create this environment of an armed conflict. Now, out in China, China is now building a second aircraft carrier, and they built the first one from a Soviet-era hull, which was imported, and now they're building their second carrier, which is from scratch. And the second carrier will basically carry their domestic J-15 aircraft, and we can see that they are continually producing these ships. Now, we understand that China, Russia, they realize that the United States government central bankers are pushing war. They realize they're trying to provoke the countries into doing something. And they realize that the United States government central bankers, they're not going to stop. They're going to continually push until they get a war. And this is why we see Russia and China prepping for what is coming. The United States has already moved the majority of their military assets into position in Eastern Europe, in the Pacific, in the Middle East, along with NATO, along with the UK, and many other countries, because they are all ready and prepared to go. And they want this war because it's going to cover up this entire economic collapse. And this is why we see all of this occurring right now. Now, out in Kiev, we realize that the Kiev government, with the help of the United States government, they're pushing a major offensive. We know that the National Guard, the Army, the Special Op teams, the police forces have all been trained by the United States. We understand that lethal and non-lethal weapons have been brought in, and we're getting numerous reports that military assets have been brought up to the contact line. And we see at this point, Kiev is setting the stage and preparing for this offensive. First, they blacked out Crimea, and Russia came in and laid 2 power lines into Crimea to restore power. Then on December 23rd, they said a Ukrainian power company went dead because of a cyber attack. So everything went dark in certain sections of the country. And as soon as it happened, they blamed Russia. They said it's sabotage. They were cyber attacked. and it's definitely from Russia. Now, of course, they had no proof whatsoever. So lo and behold, Kiev came up with some proof. They found a sample of malware in a network of the power plant. Now, if the malware was indeed responsible for causing the blackout throughout parts of Ukraine, it would be a signal that industrial control systems, and in particular power plants, really are under threat from cyber attacks, something that researchers have warned for many, many years. So, analysis from the ESET claimed that the malware found in Ukraine was actually the black energy malware. Others went one step further and saying that black energy has been found within other Ukrainian power companies. And they are saying that this piece of malware was written back in 2007 by a Russian hacking group. The only problem with this is that the black energy malware, since it's been in existence since 2007, lots of hackers use this. So this does not really point to Russia because it's widely known. A lot of people who do hacking use this. But the question is, what are they pushing right now? They're pushing a false flag to blame Russia on what has happened in Kiev. And that is a cyber attack on their power infrastructure. Now, was there really a cyber attack? Probably not. They probably brought it down themselves to make it look like Russia did it. Because we have to think to ourselves, why in the world at this point would Russia do this? They've implemented the Minsk I, which didn't work out because Kiev didn't follow it. They implemented Minsk II ceasefire agreement, which Kiev is really following, but we have the Normandy IV trying to push this on Kiev. And why would Russia do this at this point? What would be their motive? There is no motive. The only motive is on the Kiev government and the U.S. government to start something and to blame Russia. Because you have to remember, Russia is in Syria, Russia's destroying their proxy army, and the United States government, central bankers, a little angry right now. And they need a war to cover up this entire collapse of the system. Now, we see the Islamic State in Libya. They are basically going for oil ports. And we know this is the proxy army. A lot of them have been airlifted from Syria into Libya to create chaos in this region. And we're starting to realize that a lot of the coalition forces are already in Libya, ready to go. Remember, the two governments need to finalize the program, and they need to basically have a list of the government members to be presented to the internationally recognized government and the House of Representatives before January 17th. And we're getting reports that SAS troops are in Libya preparing for the arrival of about 1,000 British infantrymen. A major coalition offensive is underway and will involve around 6,000 Americans and European soldiers and Marines, led by Italian forces and supported mainly by Britain and France. And we can see already, no matter what happens at this point, they need to get rid of the elected government in this country. They need full control of Libya, full control of the oil, full control of how other countries are paying for the oil, and they need full control of the central bank. And we can see they're pushing this very hard, and we will see some type of offensive in Libya, we will see an offensive in Ukraine, and we will see chaos in the Middle East. While all this is happening, we see there are major problems in Turkey, and Erdogan is out there cracking down on all the different groups in Turkey, and Turkey is just steps away from a civil war. Things that are going on there are horrific. They're cracking down on people. People are fighting back. And their entire government is a dictatorship under Erdogan. It's corrupt. And it's accepted by the United States government central bankers. Russia in Syria, they've destroyed the only threat that was in Syria. And the Su-24 bombers came in and they destroyed a surface-to-air missile system, OSA, which was designed in the USSR and was under the control of the Islamic State in Syria. And they concealed the missile system in a bunker near Damascus, and the Russian Air Force got its coordinates from Baghdad, and they homed in on it, and they completely destroyed it. And that was the only threat that was left in Syria. And at this point right now, they have a no-fly zone over Syria. They're destroying the Islamic State. They're losing more and more territory. And we knew the United States wasn't just going to sit back and say, okay, there be peace and ceasefires in Syria, and we'll just talk about everything, and everything will just be okay, Assad can stay. We knew this was not going to happen. They will never give up. They need this war. They need chaos. The goal is always the same, to get into Syria, to stop Iran from building a pipeline. They want a pipeline from Qatar to supply Europe. They want the dollar on their natural resources. They want a central bank. And eventually, they're going into Iran. So right now, what are they doing? They're going for the prize. They're going for it all. This is their plan. They took the plan off the shelf and they said, all right, let's dust it off. We're going to use this plan right now. And we are going for it. You have to remember, they want a sectarian war. They want the Kurds, the Shiites, and the Sunnis fighting. Their plan is to separate the Middle East into 3 different regions. Because once they went into Syria, they were going to go into Iran. And they see there's no way they can do anything in Syria with Russia there. So they needed a completely new plan. So we have right now Saudi Arabia killing a cleric, which they knew would cause this type of an event, where people would get angry in Iran. They wanted this to happen. So what do we have? We have Saudi Arabia right now, which is basically separating itself from Iran. We see Bahrain is severing diplomatic ties with Iran. We see United Arab Emirates and Sudan separating diplomatic ties, severing diplomatic ties with Iran. Saudi citizens will be banned from traveling to the country, all commercial ties with Iran being cut off. Basically what they're doing is they're trying to create as much chaos as possible. Iran is accusing Bahrain of towing Saudi line. Russia is saying that cutting off Iran ties is completely not constructive. And I know Putin, he is trying to keep peace in the region. He's continually doing this. And the United States government, central bankers, the coalition forces, they don't want peace. They want war. And they'll continually try to push war as hard as they possibly can. Now, there's a leaked memo out of Saudi Arabia, which they knew if they had the mass execution of 47 people, it would spark an uproar in Iran. The document was leaked to the human rights group Reprieve, which believes it shows the executions were politically motivated. They knew exactly what they were doing. This was part of the plan. This is not something they just thought of. This was already in the works, ready to go. Because we know for a fact that United States government central bankers are not going to sit back while Russia removes the proxy army, the Islamic State, in Syria. They're not going to let the Islamic State be completely pushed out. They're not going to allow Assad to be in power. They're not going to allow Iran to make deals with Russia to build a pipeline. No, they're not going to allow this. The goal has always been the same, and they cannot see past this. The economy is collapsing. They're losing in Syria. They need a way to create a war. They need a way to create chaos in the region. They need a way to make it so difficult for Russia that hopefully maybe they'll leave. But we know this is not going to happen. Their other plan is to get Russia more involved, to have an event occur. And this is what we're going to see as we go throughout 2016, because as we go throughout 2016, this economic collapse is going to accelerate. I mean, think about what we've just learned. The manipulation of data, the illusion that we're in a recovery. We are learning that this economy is much worse than what the government has been telling us. Now, we already knew this. We've been looking at other economic indicators, and we already knew that this was completely fake, phony, and false. Now the world is waking up, and people are saying, wait, what is going on here? And this is why Obama is out there pushing gun control as hard as he possibly can to get the weapons away from the people. This is why we see this incident is being fanned up now by the FBI in Oregon. And we see that there's chaos in the Middle East. All of this is going to be pushed as hard as they possibly can to get the war started. Now, if the war is not started, they will basically rely on a false flag. They will prepare an event. And we understand the Islamic State, which is the proxy army of the United States government, central bankers, according to the corporate media and the U.S. government, they have sleeper cells all over the place, because this is the message that the Islamic State put out. Basically what they're doing is they're letting you know that this next event can happen anywhere. They already have agents prepared to set it off. And we've discussed this many times, where this next event is not going to be small. It's not going to be a shooting. It's going to be large. Because the central bank, the U.S. government, they're running into a problem. They want to control this collapse. They don't want a black swan incident. They don't want the collapse coming down by itself. They want to bring it down the way they want to bring it down, where they can blame it on another country or group. This is why Yellen said, okay, we're raising the rates, or making it look like they raised the rates, and they're showing the world that we're in a recovery. This is why she made the statement that if things turn around, they can go back to zero and negative rates. And this is what they're preparing. They're preparing for a major event. They're preparing for multiple cyber attacks on financial institutions, on power grids. Are they going to bring the power grid down in the entire country? No. They will do it in small sections. Then they'll use physical attacks in different cities. They could be dirty bomb. We know Israel has been testing dirty nukes in suitcases in the desert. We understand it could be chemical, because we know the U.S. government has provided the Islamic State, their proxy army, with chemical weapons. It could even be biological. But they will do this in multiple places because they need to bring the people together to fight this next war. And this is what they are planning. They're getting ready. And here we are already, with everything starting to accelerate, fall apart, and chaos is being pushed in the Middle East. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.